I didn't know, David said softly. But the land knew, said another elder, tapping his walking stick. The moment you poured concrete on sacred earth, you offered your life and your bloodline. David's voice cracked. What do I? Chief Madhu leaned forward. You must go to the forest, to Ogwugudu, the Shadow Grove. There you will find the seer, Mama Adaku. She speaks with the ancestors. Only she can tell you what the shrine wants. David nodded, but as he turned to leave, an elder added, and be warned, Mama Adaku was banished for cursing her own blood. Her tongue holds truth and poison. That evening, as the crimson sun bled behind the hills, David packed a small satchel and kissed Ava's head. She whimpered. Grace clutched his hand. What if you don't come back? I will, he said. I have to. Jason handed him a flashlight and a machete. Obinna slipped the black feather into the satchel. Take this, he whispered. It might be part of what they want. David walked into the dusk alone. The forest that greeted him was not the one he remembered as a child. It had changed. Trees leaned close, their roots pulsing like veins. The path bent unnaturally. Cousin Emeka, who died before his 12th birthday. The spirits accepted. But now they have seen your wealth. They are jealous. They want more. David gasped. My father sacrificed Emeka? Adaku nodded. And now the shrine wants what it was denied, your firstborn, Jason. David staggered backward. No, I will not give him. You already did, she said, when you came back. Suddenly the walls of the hut shimmered and turned transparent. Through them, David saw his house. Jason was standing staring at the tree line. Celia was behind him, and in her hand she held a dagger carved from obsidian. Jason stood by the orange tree in the compound, feeling an unease he could not explain. He had always laughed at superstition, his mind trained in science, his beliefs forged in modernity. Something primal clawed at the edge of his reason. The leaves around him trembled with a wind that didn't touch his skin. That's when he heard her. I see you've grown taller, Jason. He turned slowly. Aunt Cecilia stood by the threshold of the family's ancestral hut, the one no one had opened since grandfather Obidi's death. Her white wrapper was stained with red earth, and her hair was tied back with a cloth of midnight blue. Around her neck she wore an amulet of dried lizard skin and cola nut shells. Jason tried to speak, but his throat tightened. I remember when you were born, she said, her smile thin. Your cries shook the Iroko trees. While the spirits knew you had come, he backed away. My father said not to speak to you. Cecilia's expression shifted. And did your father tell you he once tried to poison me? That he feared my dreams? Jason said nothing. She stepped closer. There is a reason your family's wealth bloomed after my son died. A trade was made. But now the gods are restless. You were meant to burn, Jason. Burn with the house. Then she produced the dagger, a curved obsidian blade with sigils etched down its hilt. It pulsed with darkness. Before Jason could react, Obinna tackled him from behind, dragging him away. Run, Obinna shouted. The two boys sprinted into the night as Aunt Cecilia let out a shriek, a sound not human, not animal, but something between the two. From behind the compound, shadows moved. Dogs? No. They were too tall, too jointed. Limbs that bent backwards. Eyes that glowed gold. Back in the forest, David watched the vision fade. Mama Daku's breathing was heavy, her bones trembling with effort. She has called upon Aite, the hunger spirit, she rasped. They come to claim what was promised. The land will not wait. David clenched his fists. Tell me how to stop it, she literally. Only a sacrifice of equal desire can satisfy the shrine. The gods do not want cattle or coin. They want love, something you love, or someone who loves you enough to die in your place. David's mouth went dry. Me? He asked. She shook her head. You are already cursed. The shrine will not accept you. It must be someone innocent, someone pure. Ava's face flashed before David's eyes. No, he whispered. Then your line ends, she said, and the blood will spill until the land drinks its fill. Meanwhile, Obinna and Jason burst through the forest edge and into the abandoned yam barn. Jason panted. What? What was that thing behind her? I don't know, Obinna replied, pressing a hand to his chest. But we can't go back there. Jason looked around. Where's Dad? He went to find Mama Adaku, Obinna said. We have to wait. Then they heard footsteps. Crunch, crunch, not one pair. 3, 4, more. Jason held up his flashlight and aimed it at the barn's entrance. Nothing. Then the batteries flickered, died. Darkness swallowed them. A low voice hissed from the rafters. Children, do you fear the dark? Jason screamed. In the Morrow compound, Grace sat cradling Ava as the door outside. Cecilia was back, and she wasn't alone. Open the door, Grace. She called. Come and greet your husband's only sister. Grace ran into the kitchen and grabbed the pestle from the mortar. From the rooftop, claws scratching slate. Shadows fell over the window, and then the baby stopped crying. Ava looked up, smiled. And Uncle, she whispered. Grace spun. There, sitting in the corner, was a small boy. Eyes milky white, skin gray. He looked barely 10. My name is Amika, he said. I used to live here before the shrine ate me. Back in the forest, ran like a man possessed. Daku's warning rang in his head. Love can break the pack, but something else, something no one had dared. There was one who in more than life. Not even David himself. It was someone David had. Someone who in their lives 5 years ago, your brother, Jason's father. They used to call David's younger brother, soft voice and rest, the one who wrote poems on and talked to trees as if they whispered, the one who years ago without a trace. They had told everyone Michael left, that he was chasing out, that he cut ties, found. But now, through the night, branches that clawed like the hands of the dead, David remembered the truth. Michael had not left. Michael had been banished. Not by the family, by David. It had been 2018. Jason was 8. Ava had not yet been born. David's business was failing, creditors knocking like vultures. His once glorious imported cars business was reduced to a broken down SUV and debt he couldn't name. The banks froze his accounts. His friends stopped picking calls. And then came Michael, with a bag full of cash. He had returned from Benin Republic, where he'd allegedly found a helper, an old woman who lived between the borders. No passport, no name, only stories. Michael called her Na Tano. She had shown him a way, a ritual, one that involved blood, silence, and a single truth. Trade what you love, and fortune will find you. David had laughed at first, but desperation is a quiet poison. When your back is against the wall, even madness starts sounding like salvation. And Michael had whispered something else, something that never left David's mind. Jason isn't your son. David had frozen. You were in London when Grace got pregnant, Michael had said, eyes wild. She needed comfort. We didn't mean for it to happen. But Jason, he's mine. That night, the brothers fought. and David, shaking with rage, had made a choice. He took Michael's bag of cash, burned the documents, and with help from a retired police officer, declared Michael mentally unstable, a danger to the family. An order was signed, a pickup van sent. Michael was taken to Ebola Psychiatric Institute on the outskirts of Asaba, and no one ever saw him again, until now. The path bent sharply, and David tripped over a tree root, falling face first into a puddle of mud. As he pushed himself up, he saw it, a red scarf, lying in the mud, just like the one Michael always wore. He picked it up, heart pounding. Then a low voice echoed through the trees. "Why now, brother?" David turned. There, standing beneath the tangled roots of an ancient Iroko, was a man. His beard was longer, hair matted, eyes dark with both grief and fire. But it was him. David's breath caught. "You're alive." Michael gave a twisted smile. "Barely. I thought you were." "Dead? Lost?" he said, stepping forward. "No, you buried me in silence, but the land remembered, the ancestors whispered, and now they've given me one last chance to make it right." David staggered. "Jason, he's in danger. The shrine wants him. Aunt Cecilia has called the spirits. We need to." Michael held up a hand. "They don't want Jason," he said coldly. "They want me." David frowned. "What do you mean?" Michael stepped into the moonlight. "The night I was taken, I made a deal with Naatano. I offered her my future, my name, my freedom. In return, she cloaked your sins, hid the truth about Jason. She made the spirits forget for a time." David's knees went weak. Michael continued, "But the curse was never lifted. It only slept. Now it has woken, and blood will not stop it." David fell to his knees. "Then what do we do?" Michael stared at him for a long time. Then he said the unthinkable. "You must let me die." Back in the compound, Grace faced Cecilia at last. The doors had burst open. The spirits had entered. Tall, sinewy, faces wrapped in leaves and bone. But it was Emeka, the ghost of the cousin they never spoke about, who now stood between them. "I was the first bargain," he whispered, his voice echoing from nowhere and everywhere. "But the shrine is greedy. It never forgets." Cecilia was calm, her eyes gleaming. "Emeka, my son, they took you from me. Now I take theirs." Grace clutched Ava tighter, but Emeka turned to his mother. "You cursed the land the day you buried me in that drum of palm wine. You sealed my tongue with ash, but I remember, and now I choose." Cecilia's smile vanished. The boy raised his hand and the spirits paused. For a brief second the compound grew still, and then the ground shook. A crack tore through the yard like lightning made of earth. From it rose a tree, black, gnarled, and bleeding sap. On its bark were the names of every child the shrine had claimed. At the very top, freshly carved, was Ava. Obinna and Jason reached the edge of the forest clearing just as the tree rose. Jason screamed, "She's next! We have to stop this!" Obinna pulled something from his shirt, a wooden mask. "I took this from Cecilia's hut," he said. "I don't know why, but it called to me." Jason stared at it. "What do we do with it?" The answer came not from them, but from the forest itself. A deep voice, older than time, rolled through the wind. "Bury the mask beneath the blood of the betrayer. Then and only then shall the curse be bound." Obinna turned to Jason. Jason turned to the house, and they both knew what they had to do. The tree loomed like a judgment. Its bleeding bark glistened beneath the moon, and Ava's name shimmered at the crown, as though the shrine had already tasted her fate. Jason and Obinna stood rooted, the mask clutched in trembling hands. "We have to bury it," Jason said, his voice dry, like wind over bones. Obinna nodded. But whose blood? Then from behind them a sound, not footsteps, not wind, a sound older than bone. Cecilia was coming. They ducked low, slipping behind the barn. Obinna clutched the mask to his chest. Like a sacred relic, Cecilia stepped into the clearing, arms raised like wings of shadow. Her voice, soft, yet sharp with power, sliced through the night. O spirits of the Black River, O watchers of the hollow hill, come, drink the name on the bark. Come, feast upon my blood if it be thy will. Jason gasped. She's offering herself? Obinna shook his head, eyes wide. No, she's tricking them. She knows the shrine doesn't want her. It wants the innocent. That's why she wrote Ava's name. From the shadows, a flicker, a form, a Mika. He stepped beside them, ghostly, flickering. You must hurry, he warned. The tree will bloom when the moon reaches its peak. Then the bark becomes a mouth and it will devour her soul. Jason stared at the mask. But we need blood. Emeka nodded. The betrayer's blood. The one who traded truth for silence. The one who banished my father. Jason blinked. Michael? Obinna turned slowly. Your uncle. Emeka's voice was calm like the eye of a storm. He returns now. And from the trees, Michael stepped into the clearing. Cecilia's chant stuttered. Her eyes met his. You, she hissed, the failure. Michael walked forward, not with rage, but with purpose. He knelt before the tree, from his pocket, the dagger. Obsidian, ancient. Jason stepped forward. Wait, what are you doing? Michael smiled softly. Undoing the lie. With one clean motion, he sliced his palm. The blood dripped. Onto the mask. The earth shuddered. The mask trembled. Its carvings blazed with orange flame. Obinna dropped it. It struck the roots of the tree. Then the wind howled. The tree and its branches writhed like arms in pain. Faces rippled through its bark. Screaming children, weeping women, laughing demons. Cecilia shrieked, No, you cannot steal my offering. Michael turned to her, Face your wisdom. And with that, Michael faded, not dead, not alive, just gone. The night exhaled, the spirits departed, and the land rested. But far beneath the roots, something still pulsed, waiting. The village of Umwaka had rivers that never forgot. They snaked through the land like veins through a sleeping god, wide, brown, and whispering. Elders said if you listened close enough at night, the river would call out the names of those that had witnessed sin. Some heard the names in dreams. Some never woke up after. And that night, as the wind carried the echoes of Cecilia's downfall, the river stirred. In the moon's reflection on the water, something shimmered. A woman's face. Eyes wide, mouth gasping. But no breath, no voice. Grace saw it first. She had come to the river's edge to wash Ava's feet with sacred herbs, an old Igbo ritual to cool the spirit after it had brushed too close to death. But as she dipped her daughter's toes into the water, the surface trembled, and the face appeared. Not Ava's, not Grace's, Cecilia's, but twisted, drenched, weeping blood. Grace gasped and yanked Ava back. Chinika, what is this? The face blinked once and whispered, It is not over. Then it vanished. Elsewhere in the stillness of David's late father's compound, Jason sat beside Michael's faded wrapper. He wasn't crying. He wasn't even angry. He was confused. What did Emeka mean when he said I must keep watch? He asked Obinna. Obinna, still shaken, stared at the old tree stump they'd lit as a fire pit. Maybe it means you have a gift, he said. You saw Emeka. You heard the spirits. I didn't. Jason frowned. But I don't want this. Obinna smirked sadly. No one ever does. Then the drums began again. Soft, distant, coming not from the compound, but from the forest. Obinna froze. That's not festival drumming. That's, his face paled, a call. Jason stood. A call for what? Obinna turned slowly. We need to find the river seer, the old woman who speaks to the waters. She lives past the 3 twisted palms. She knows all that swims in darkness. Jason hesitated. Why now? Because, Obinna said, grabbing a lantern, the river just remembered something we've all forgotten. They reached her hut just before midnight. It was made of rusted zinc and palm fiber, hidden behind a wall of hanging snail shells that clinked like bones. Her name was Mama Ndidiamaka, though none dared call her by it. Most simply whispered, the mother of eyes. She was blind, but her eyes were always open, pale and unblinking. When they stepped inside, she was already humming. 2 boys, she crooned, one with a name borrowed, one with a name cursed. Jason blinked. What does that mean? She leaned closer, her scent like river clay and pepper. Do you know what your real name is, boy? Jason frowned. It's Jason, she laughed. Jason is what David called you, but your name, the one the spirits wrote when your soul was woven, is Ikenna, son of truth, son of reckoning. Obinna turned sharply. That's Michael's middle name. Jason's world tilted. She nodded. Because Michael is your true father, and his blood, though spilled, is not yet silenced. The shrine is not done. The final name is still on the bark. Jason stepped back. I thought Ava was the last. Mama Ndidiamaka's voice dropped to a hiss. No, the final name is hidden. She held out a gourd. In here lies what was stolen from the river 13 years ago. Drink it, and you will see. Jason reached out, hand trembling. Obinna grabbed his arm. What if it kills you? Jason looked at the blind woman. She was still smiling, but her smile held no comfort. Then let it, Jason said, lifting the gourd. He drank. What he saw next would change everything. The night Michael was taken, the fight, the truth, and one more thing, something no one else saw. Cecilia wasn't working alone. In the vision, as Michael was dragged away by the men, another hand passed money to them. A man, tall, wearing David's cap. But it wasn't David. It was Uncle Felix, the family's most trusted elder. The man who prayed the longest, danced the hardest at weddings, and spoke at every funeral like he'd buried his own soul. Jason dropped the gourd, gasping. They betrayed him, he whispered. Not just Cecilia. Uncle Felix helped erase Michael. Obinna was silent. Mama Ndidiamaka's voice returned, softer now. Truth is like the river. If you block it, it swells, and when it breaks, it drowns everything. Back in the compound, Uncle Felix stirred in his sleep. He awoke gasping, soaked in sweat. Something was wrong. He looked at the wall where a framed picture of the whole family used to hang. It was gone. In its place was a line of names scrawled in charcoal. Michael, Amaka, Ava, Jason. Then a 5th name began to appear, written by unseen hands. The compound was quiet. Too quiet. Not even the goats dared bleat. The wind held its breath. Jason stood in the dim glow of the kerosene lantern, his eyes fixed on Uncle Felix, who knelt at the family shrine, mumbling prayers with trembling lips. You've been praying to the same ancestors you betrayed, Jason said, stepping into view. Felix turned slowly, his mouth tightening. I did what was necessary. For who? Jason asked. The family or yourself? Uncle Felix rose, but his spine seemed to fold in on itself, like a man who had carried a lie for too long. I buried my own brother to protect you, Felix said. Jason frowned. Michael wasn't your brother, he was mine. Felix's eyes glinted. And David's son, your precious father? He knew all along that Cecilia's madness came from the old ritual. He knew we had to sacrifice one name every generation to keep the curse from waking. Jason's stomach dropped. You're lying. Felix's voice hardened. Why do you think every firstborn in this family dies before their time? Why do you think we hold silent vigils every Christmas Eve? Jason stared. You mean the so-called ancestral cleansing? It was a blood tax, Felix whispered, to keep the thing in the shrine from waking. Jason's breath caught. What thing? But before Felix could answer, a scream shattered the air. Grace. Jason turned and ran, heart thundering. Obinna was already ahead of him, bounding across the compound toward the main hut. Inside, Ava was convulsing. Her eyes had rolled white. Her hands were clenched like claws, and her lips moved in whispers too ancient for the living. Grace knelt beside her, sobbing. She said someone's name. Jason knelt low. Ava's voice rasped from somewhere far away. Felix. Felix stumbled into the doorway, but Ava's eyes locked on him. You fed her, she hissed. You opened the gate, old man. You called her name in the rain. Jason froze. Who's she? And Ava answered in a voice that wasn't hers. A man's voice. Michael's. She is the one Cecilia called Mother of Flame, the one buried beneath the first altar. She is not ancestor, she is hunger. She was never meant to be worshipped. Obinna's voice shook. What is she saying? Jason looked at his sister, no, at his father, speaking through her. The shrine is not a shrine, it's a tomb. Then Ava collapsed, and the hut filled with laughter. Cecilia's. Only it was deeper now, older. I warned you. The voice echoed from the walls. It is not over. Later that night, Jason and Obinna returned to Mama Ndidiamaka's hut. They found her burning incense made of dried tortoiseshell and ashes of eagle feather. She didn't look surprised. Right, you've seen her, she said without turning. The one the ancestors buried, the one Cecilia tried to raise. Jason sat down heavily. What is she? The first wife of the river god, Mama said. Banished for drinking the hearts of children. Bound beneath the sacred tree when the gods still walked barefoot among us. Obinna shuddered. What does she want? Mama Ndidiamaka turned at last. You. She wants the blood of all who carry the dual flame. The line of Michael and, she paused, the woman who should never have borne him. Jason's heart froze. My mother? Mama nodded. She was Cecilia's twin, but not born of this world, a spirit walker. She stepped into this world for love and paid the price. Obinna whispered, so Jason's blood is half spirit? Mama Ndidiamaka whispered, half mortal, half echo, entirely dangerous. Then she turned to Jason. You're the key, but not because of what you are. Jason frowned. Then why? Because the shrine fears you. You're the only one who can't be bound. Your blood writes names, but it cannot be erased. She handed him a knife. But to seal her again, you must give up the thing she craves most, your name. Jason blinked. My name? Mama nodded solemnly. You must walk the river as a nameless soul. Bind her in silence, in forgiveness, and never return. Jason gripped the blade. Obinna stood beside him. You're not doing this alone. Jason looked at his cousin and said, with calm he didn't feel, you've already done enough. If I fail, make sure Ava grows up free of this. Mama Ndidiamaka reached into her gourd and scattered black powder in a ring around Jason. Then go, Ikenna, son of the flame and the forgotten. The earth rumbled, the moon cracked, and the path to the river shrine opened. Jason walked alone. The path to the river shrine was not made of soil or stone, but of names. They whispered beneath his feet as he passed. David, Michael, Cecilia, Emika, Grace, Ava, Felix. Each step deeper was a step through memory and betrayal. The night air thickened like palm oil, humid and heavy with ancient expectation. Above him, the moon was no longer whole. A perfect arc of shadow carved through it like a wound, bleeding silver across the trees. And ahead he saw it, the tree. It was not a shrine, it was a tomb, twisted, monstrous, its trunk blackened as if struck by 1,000 bolts of lightning. Fetish dolls hung from its branches like hanged men. Cowrie shells screamed in silence. Red cloth danced in windless air. Jason stepped closer. In his hand was the blade Mama Ndidiamaka had given him, hilt wrapped in the hair of ancestors, its edge gleaming with a cold not born of earth. And then he heard it, the voice. Ikenna. Not Jason. Ikenna, his true name. He turned and saw her. She was beautiful in a way that broke the mind. A woman cloaked in shadow, with eyes like eclipses and a smile that bled. She stepped from the tree, barefoot, leaving scorched footprints in the soil. I knew your father, she said. He tried to resist me until she came. Who? Jason asked, voice dry. She smiled wider. Your mother, the one Cecilia buried in silence. Jason's heart pounded. You killed her. No, she said. She gave herself to keep me sealed. Jason raised the knife. Then I'll do the same. She laughed. You think I fear your blade? It was your mother's forgiveness that bound me, not her death. Then came the twist. From the roots of the tree, a second figure emerged. A woman, with Jason's eyes and Ava's nose. She was young, too young to be his mother, but her presence struck him like thunder. Ikenna, she said gently, my son. Jason's hand trembled. I don't understand. The dark woman, the hunger beneath the shrine, hissed. She was supposed to choose me, but she chose love. Jason looked at his mother. You're a spirit walker, she nodded. I was sent to destroy this place, but I fell in love with Michael, and from our union came you. You're not a weapon, Ikenna. You're the answer. Jason stared at the blade in his hand, but she said I had to give up my name. His mother stepped closer. No, you must give up your anger. The shadow woman howled. Lies. Jason turned to her. You feed on vengeance. That's why the shrine demanded blood. That's why the curse passed from child to child. She lunged, but Jason raised the blade, not to strike, but to cut his own palm. Blood dripped onto the roots. I forgive you, he said. The shrine screamed. The dolls caught fire. The river surged from the earth like a living snake and wrapped itself around the tree. Jason's voice rose. I forgive you, Cecilia. I forgive you, Felix. I forgive even David. His blood glowed. The roots pulled the shadow woman back, and then Jason turned to his mother. I'm ready. She nodded, her hand closing over his, and together they stepped into the tree. The bark closed behind them. The fire died, and the curse was broken. The next morning, Ava awoke beneath the rising sun. The fever was gone. The voices had stopped. Grace cried and kissed her face over and over. You're free, my child. You're free. Obina arrived, soaked in river water, holding the blade Jason had left behind. He did it, he whispered. Uncle Felix was found kneeling at the shrine, eyes open but unseeing. He never spoke again. David returned home and sat before Michael's grave. And for the first time, he wept like a man who had waited too long to be honest. Years later, Ava stood before a crowd of children. They sat wide-eyed beneath the mango tree, hanging on her every word. And that's how my brother Jason Ikenna ended the curse of our family. A small boy raised his hand. Will he ever come back? Ava smiled softly. Only if we forget. That's when he returns, to remind us who we truly are. The wind shifted, the river whispered, and from the trees, a shadow watched. The river no longer flowed as it once did. Where once its waters whispered curses and sorrow, it now ran clear and silent, like a song that had remembered how to end. But in the village of Ubo-Nso, not everyone slept peacefully. For though the curse was broken, truth still had one more name to speak. The night before the festival, Obinna stood before the sacred tree, now hollow and silent, its bark scorched but alive. He had buried the knife beneath its roots, Jason's knife. Beside him, Mama Ndidiamaka knelt, whispering to the soil. He gave everything, Obinna said, and still we let him carry the shame. Mama's voice was steady, because we were afraid. He was born different, too bright, like fire in dry grass, and fire scares small hearts. She stood slowly, but fear must also answer for what it burns. She handed Obinna an envelope. This came from David. Obinna opened it, and what he read made the blood drain from his face. A confession in ink. David's handwriting was sharp, every letter heavy with guilt. Obinna, my son, I have no right to ask for forgiveness, but you must know. Michael was never the villain. I was. When I found out he had fathered a child with a spirit walker, I was terrified of losing the family, the inheritance, everything. So I helped Cecilia twist the rituals. I watched her bind your mother. I stood by as she cursed Jason's bloodline. Jason was my son too, but I never claimed him. I was afraid, and fear made me a coward. Obinna's hands trembled. Jason was his son? Mama Ndidiamaka nodded. Born of David and the Spirit Walker. That's why the shrine feared him. The blood of betrayal and the blood of balance in one vessel. The Festival of Rainlight? That Christmas, the village gathered for the first Rainlight Festival in over 20 years. A festival once banned after the first blood was spilled at the shrine. Drums pounded. Palms were painted white. Old women danced in circles and men wore the masks of ancestral spirits. Ava wore a white wrapper and led the procession. Grace stood proud, her eyes never leaving her daughter. Uncle Felix sat in silence beneath the tree, still mute, still broken. Obinna held the candle of renewal, a flame lit from the last coal of the shrine fire. Final chant. Ava stepped forward. She raised her voice. We remember the one who bore the burden, the one who gave us back our names, the one who walked into silence so we could speak freely. Children poured libation into the earth. The flame glowed brighter. And then Ava, with trembling lips, said the name. Ikenna, son of fire, brother of truth. The wind rose. The tree groaned, and for a moment, a shadow stepped from the bark. Jason, he looked the same, eyes calm, smile small, wrapped in a wrapper of light and storm. Ava stepped forward, but he raised a hand. I cannot stay, he said, but I needed to hear it once. Hear what? She asked, eyes brimming. Jason's gaze locked with hers. My name. A hush fell over the festival. Then Obinna stepped forward. Brother, he said. Jason turned, startled. David's son, his brother, the boy who had fought beside him. I am sorry, Obinna said, for everything. Jason smiled. I forgive you. The tree behind him whispered content. Jason turned to Ava one last time. Protect the name, not just mine, all of them. And then he stepped back and vanished. Years later, the shrine became a place of learning, not of sacrifice, but of stories. Children were taught to honor names, not erase them. Ava became the village historian. Grace raised orphans from all tribes. Obinna became the keeper of the river shrine. And on Christmas Eve each year, when the moon is high and the fire is low, Ava tells the story again. There once was a boy born of love and fear. They gave him shame. He gave them peace. He did not fight with fists, but with forgiveness. And in the end, it was not his power that saved us, but his name. And the children always ask, will he come back again? To which Ava always smiles and says, only if we forget. And so the fire dies down. The drums fall silent and the tale finds its rest. but the story lives on, in your bones, in your dreams, in the hush before midnight. Goodbye for now, until the next tale finds you.